Hi, everyone. I think I'm going to go ahead and turn you guys on. Uh, Dana is having a little bit of internet issues, so it might be a moment till she joins, but she will be here momentarily. And if you can all just you can let me know in the chat or unmute yourself. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. While we are waiting on Dana, I will go ahead and introduce her. Dana is a project manager for the Eastern Kentucky Runway Social Enterprise Accelerator at SOAR, where she leads programming that supports entrepreneurs across the region through mentorship, partnerships, and tailored coaching. She is a graduate of the University of Kentucky, where she earned a BBA in marketing and a minor in communication as a Robinson Scholar and Shelgren Fellow, and she also holds a credential of readiness in business analytics, financial accounting, and managerial economics from Harvard Business School online. Passionate about mentoring the next generation, Dana is committed to advancing leadership and innovation in Appalachia. And so hopefully she'll be able to join us soon. She is at a conference at this moment and is trying to find another space to where internet is a little bit better because unfortunately hers was going in and out. So hopefully she will join us momentarily. And I went ahead and dropped the link so you can kind of check out the program while we're waiting. And I'm going ahead and putting this on kind of a chat thing where people can unmute themselves and speak if they want. If you are just getting on here and hearing Dana's having a little bit of technical issues and her internet is keeps going in and out, so hopefully she will join here shortly. And I know you all were expecting kind of more of a webinar, so you were probably hoping to sit back and listen maybe and not speak. But if anyone wants to, feel free to drop your intros in the chat or come off mute and introduce yourself and maybe let us know why you wanted to join this webinar. There she is. Yay.
Hi guys, I'm joining from my phone. Sorry about our Wi-Fi issues here today.
And I
Uh,
already introduced you, so
oh,
feel free to hop right in and yeah.
yeah, so I'm Danna Barnett. I am the project manager for the Social Enterprise Accelerator at SOAR. I'm very grateful to be with you all today, and I'm sure you were told like we have a Q&A open, so we definitely want to hear from you. Any topics that you're really passionate about, we want to make sure we cover today. Um, but we're going to be talking about social enterprise, business, entrepreneurial mindset, and sort of how we can create that equity and that guide to rural communities to have that resiliency that we know we all have in us. And so I want to, make sure you all leave with some good takeaways, uh, strategies that you can use in your own practice, in your own sessions, to make sure that whatever problems you see come up in your society and in your community, you're able to think strategically about how we may overcome those and how one issue or one situation might directly affect another one. So, with the Social Enterprise Accelerator, just to give a little bit of background and context, we focus very much on workforce development. So that prime age employment gap of 25 to 54-year-olds who have maybe fallen out of the workforce for one reason or another. Maybe it's they decided to be a stay-at-home parent, or maybe they're in recovery and they're just now re-entering, or maybe there's been some downsizing or some economic shifts that have caused their job or their career to go away. Um, those are the types of people that we try to focus on most. And with the EKY Runway program as a whole at SOAR, we very much uh, take a holistic approach to economic development and to making sure that those people and the businesses that employ uh, our people in our region are connected and they're talking, and that we're upskilling and reskilling and making sure that we're putting education at the forefront of the conversation. And when we think about all of those things, we know even in a perfect world where there's a great job and it meets my pay needs to be able to supply what I need for my family, and it meets my interest and my passion, and it meets my education and my training. There's still going to be barriers that prevent people from fully fulfilling that meaningful job. And those things, I'd love to hear from you all in the Q&A, but um, the, the major ones when we look at the research are pretty clear. It's things like transportation, it's things like childcare, and it's things like affordable housing. And so when you don't have one or all three of those things, it makes it very difficult to show up for work, to go to a community event, to join the economy, to join your neighbors at a social function, whatever it might be that you want to do and that you're passionate about. Those are the types of barriers that are reoccurring, and it's not unique to Eastern Kentucky or rural communities. This is things that we see across the nation and across the world. But there are ways that we can take action as a society to mitigate some of those barriers and making sure that people have access to all of the things that they need to really fulfill their own purpose and their own role. And so when we think about community solutions, We very much want to think, um, you know, beyond just what's best for the bottom line. How can we make the most money when we think about business and entrepreneurship in a traditional sense? That can sometimes be what's thought of most is, but is this too risky, or is it something that is going to make a lot of money? Is it scalable? Is it replicable? But when we think about social enterprise, we do think about those things in some regard. We want to be sustainable. We want to have that earned revenue. We want to make sure that um, that this is a business and solution that can be uh, used in a variety of ways and for a long time, and without the requirement of non-recurring funding like grants. So those are things that we very much think about. But when you think about social enterprise, think very much about models that are earned revenue and profitability that then turn into community impact. So whether that's land, whether that's environment, maybe that's uh, people. You want to focus on the people, or maybe that's prosperity for the future of a region. Whatever that mission and that focus is, that's really goes into the bottom line there. It's not just about profitability. And so when you think about building those types of solutions in your community, there's some, pretty easy strategies that you want to start with, some best practices. And I would say the first one is always going to be, are you building a solution for real people? Are you thinking about things um, that actually work for the community that you're trying to serve? And who are you asking? Who are you getting involved in the conversation? Because we want to make sure that uh, I say it all the time to our team and to our partners, but those closest to the problem are the ones closest to the solution. And so, are we asking and thinking um, about the people who are facing whatever problem we're trying to solve? And, we can look at problems as issues and barriers, but we can also look at them as opportunities, not just opportunities to profit or to expand our wealth, but more so about opportunities to provide a service or a need for people to advance our community and our economy. So with that, we're always going to want to start with who are we solving for, and are we being helpful to that person, and have we talked to that person? So solving a real problem for a real person. And oftentimes, entrepreneurship comes out of necessity. So those people who are facing the problems are the best entrepreneurs there are, because they have that built-in perspective. And I know that many of us have probably faced those, the childcare issue, or maybe a housing issue or a transportation issue, um, and thought, what if this solution existed? Or what if I had this? Or how could we make this not a problem for someone else? And we really want to build community in that way, and have those solutions come to the forefront when we're thinking about these types of things. Um, the other thing that I definitely want to make sure uh, we think about when we think about strategy in solving and building these practical solutions is start small. You don't have to have the absolute end goal dream product or service that you want to provide. So if you want to create, let's say, a homeless shelter in your community, you know that there's a need for housing people who might be unhoused right now. You can think about, but you don't have the funding. You don't have your nonprofit or your business set up. You don't have much of anything as far as resources for this right now. What can you do today? What could you do to build towards that goal? So it might be that you put together a pamphlet on existing resources. It could be that you do a fundraiser for some immediate needs of the people that you're wanting to help. It could be, just a focus group where you're going out in the field and you're talking to to the people that you want to serve, and you're getting those insights. So you can start small, and do something that will help you advance to the next step, and help you in the future when you want to go after those bigger goals. And then the other thing, so say you're wanting to start a childcare facility and you want to have an early learning center. You want to help kids get kindergarten ready, and ready to, the statistics are clear. The earlier the intervention, and as an outside adult outside of their family is helping them, the better off they are long term in the future. So say that's your goal and your dream. Uh, you could start by providing tutoring services. You could start by just an in-home daycare where you provide services in the evening, or weekends. You could start with 1 day a week. Whatever it is that is obtainable to you right now with the resources you have. Um, those are active ways that you can start solving those types of problems in your community. The other thing is, if we're really wanting to build a business or build a solution that is going to be long term and sustainable, don't stay glued to that first idea or that first iteration. Learn fast, fail forward, and make sure that you are asking a multitude of people along the way, and not all advice is going to be the right advice. So have that discernment. What will work for me? What will work for the business I'm trying to build or the solution that I'm trying to build? And it's not always that you go out and start a business. Maybe it's working with a municipality. Maybe it's working with an existing nonprofit. Maybe it's working with a entrepreneurial support organization as a mentor. Whatever you want to focus on, you can have an impact without necessarily creating the full solution yourself. Um, so think about those sorts of things when we think about strategy for equity. So being that mentor for someone who might not have seen someone like you or with the experience that you have uh, doing something good in your community can really, really inspire others. So if we think about Main Street businesses, if we think about, um, you know, uh, us as humans and that human nature factor of things, we learn by observation. So if we see someone else succeed, or we see someone else helping, or we see someone else thinking about solutions, we're more likely to do it ourselves. So just being active in that way can create the conversation that ends up being the solution. So you don't have to do it all yourself. You don't have to do it all alone. And you also don't have to do it all at once. So taking it one step at a time, focusing on what is the one thing I can do today to move this mission or this goal forward. That is going to be how we create change. That's going to be how we have longevity. That's how we're going to prevent burnout. And that's also how we are going to, uh, you know, cross lines and work together on these types of things. Um, and then I would say, when we think about building uh, strategy and solutions in our community, test it out. So we can sit and theorize all day long. We can talk to as many people as we want. But until we put some sort of demonstration, minimal viable product, whatever it might be, into the world and let people give us feedback actively on a real product, then they're all just theories. So uh, going along with starting small is getting feedback. And so trying something, putting it out there in the world, and making sure that you have something testable, and something that you can validate, and then pivot if you need to. And if you start hearing the same things over and over and over again, that might be a good sign that you should listen. But if you just hear something once or twice, you can have that discernment to say, like, yeah, no, I see what you're saying, but I really still think this could work this way. So take the advice that you want to take, but also be aware enough to know if you hear things from multiple people in different ways, that it might be good advice that you want to take. I would say we also, we want to build solutions for people, but less so for people and more so with people. So that goes back to those closest to the problem or closest to the solution. Um, we can't have solutions if people aren't partaking in them. So there's been so many, programs, services, businesses, whatever it might be, that think they're solving a problem, but then go highly underutilized. And then we have to ask ourselves, why? Is it marketing? Do people not know about the product or service, or is it something deeper? Is that service not fulfilling the need it thinks it is? And is that solution not working the way it was theorized to work? So when we think about that, very much think about, we build with people. So if people are there, or if they're participating, if they're giving that feedback, then we know we're kind of onto something. But if you're having a hard time, getting buy-in or getting people to believe in whatever you're trying to do, maybe take a step back and ask, well, what am I doing it for? Who am I doing it for? And how can I do it with them? Um, you know, want to make sure if we have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. We want to hear from you along the way. If there's a specific solution you want to talk about, I think we have a few questions. Let me see. Let me get in here. So how do we reconcile needing to continue fundraising with grants long after the social enterprise should be sustainable, if not profitable? Yes, so that's a great question. And so should it ever be expected to be profitable? Yes. The answer is yes. Not every single solution, is going to be profitable from a consumer perspective. So like my example of a homeless shelter, that's not necessarily going to be profitable from like something you're charging to a customer. But think about the economic benefit for a community or a city or a county to have that shelter. It's huge. And being able to get people back on their feet as soon as possible, so they have that ability to have that resiliency, and to understand those services. So some examples are not always going to be applicable, but by and large, when you think of social enterprises, you shouldn't think of grant funding. You just shouldn't. It's great. It's not always a startup opportunity. Sometimes it's more of a you've validated your business model, you have your customers, you know your target audience, and you want to expand and see if you can replicate it. But the end goal should never be to keep having to have a grant to sustain your social enterprise. Social enterprises should be earned revenue models most of the time. And what that looks like is you charge for your services. You charge for, the product, whatever it might be. But the profits that you do have, you reinvest back into the mission. And you get to decide that mission. You get to, set those boundaries, set those goals. but ultimately, it's not social enterprise is not meant to be like um, a charity type service. There's a time and a place and a structure for charity services, but social enterprise is not that. It can be nonprofit, it can be for profit, but both should have earned revenue models built into their system, and that's what makes a strong social enterprise. Let me get back in the chat here. So even considering the impacts on social scale without investment from state or federal resources or sources, how realistic is it to expect to continue building society without their support, especially working in poverty prevention services in a high poverty community? Yeah, that's a great question. And so when I say don't rely on grants, there's other ways that we can receive support from our state and our federal. So it might be uh, tax subsidies. It might be like our child tax credit. It might be, there's ways for policy to influence those types of things without it being, grant-based funding. Let me get back in here. Like, who could we sell to when nobody has anything? Okay, yeah, I got you. So when we think about, I'd love to know what type of industry are we thinking about specifically when we talk about that, and I can give a better example of what we're looking at.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
I'll share. So, I work for a food hub. We've been 20 years running. We're probably never going to turn a profit. People don't can't afford to pay more for their groceries. Farmers can't afford to take less for their product. The gas cost and the truck costs what it costs. And so, as a sort of aggregation and distribution, we've added on lots of services and things we can apply for grants to do, agriculture education, food safety training, things like that. We've got workforce development. So we've recently added on other social enterprises. Beyond the food hub, we added an herb hub for some of the folks doing agroforestry, working with really high profit margin herbs that are native to the Appalachian forests. So they have a place to process their stuff alongside the produce farmers, and we have buyers and systems in place for them to sell their stuff. We do a cut flower social enterprise, also, like you said, aligned with our workforce development programming. So folks are learning like the Cut Floral social enterprise. We have subscriptions in a lot of the elder care homes where they subscribe to getting fresh flowers. And we can, have sales like plant sales and things. We're starting a new nursery and as part of our demonstration farm, we're in the middle of building a second food hub and demonstration farm, or at least we have been up until the federal funding freeze, which is slowing things down. And we started a food truck, so we have a way to have direct to consumer sales and take some of the produce we buy from farmers and turn them into, um, you know, festival food meals in the food truck. Um, and then let's see, the food herb hub, the food truck, and the cut flowers. And we're adding a subscription box service that's a little bit CSA, a little bit menu subscription service, a little bit like a culture subscription box with value added products. And we went through the process of what you had talked about before, sort of trial and error, find out what's going to go, what's not going to go. And in a box subscription, we're not really set up for doing like a meal recipe kit kind of box, but we'd be more like, the I guess they have like the international snack box, or there's a Nebraska in a box or an Ireland in a box. So we're doing an Appalachia box with some of our value added products and non-perishables as a subscription, and we're in the planning process for that. But a lot of these are kind of well underway, and just trying to get more earned income to fundraise for the things that we want to do that are not really grant fundable. Children's gardens tend to be starving to death, beginner agriculture education is a struggle. So we want to cover some of those things that are really hard to fund by not just grant writing, but also having social enterprises, mostly to be able to pay for the workforce development program to sustain itself because we have a paid job training model. So that's the rundown of all of our social enterprises. And it sounds like, from what you're saying, we're kind of on the right track with some of those to have, done the due diligence and research in the outset and kind of trial and error things. So I really appreciate hearing all your insight for sure. I just don't think it's realistic to expect such a high poverty community to be able to pony up the money. So the hopefully the Appalachia box will ship out to, towns with money, I guess.
Yes. And Della, that is absolutely right. You've got everything set up exactly how I would recommend you setting it up. If you could share in one sentence, what is the main mission and what is your organization, by the way? But who is your main target audience that you want to serve? Is it people who can't afford food in a community, or is it just serving our community in general with good quality food?
Yeah, that's all a part of it. We're Appalachian Sustainable Development, and our mission is to grow a stronger Appalachia through agriculture. So we want to cover basically, if you eat, you count. Everybody eats. Not everybody farms, but being able to connect a local, small regional food supply chain is really important, and to be able to kind of know where your food comes from and be able to, I when the shelves go empty like they did in COVID, do you know where your farms are?
Yeah, absolutely. And so when we think about that, I think very much two sort of things. When you have a food distribution, you have to have storage for the
Mm-hmm.
food. That's number one, and you have to have a way to get it to the people. You have to have a way to, whether it's local or whether it's
Mm-hmm.
shipping out. So the two biggest issues I see right offhand with food solutions, and you're doing very much what I would recommend, which is looking at those high margin
Mm-hmm.
whether it's microgreens where you can have X amount of acres and make a quick turnaround on those products, or maybe it's mushrooms, which we have great forestry to grow, or maybe it's sustainable ginseng or whatever it might be, um, to have that high margin that can then
Mm-hmm.
supplement your other food systems. The other thing is exactly what you said, which is um, if the community that you're serving doesn't have the funds, you sell to someone who does. And so that
Yep.
subscription box, I honestly think is going to take off. Like, I'm ready to subscribe right now. I'm from
Me too. I'm excited about that one. It's still a pending grant right now through the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services through the state of Virginia.
yeah. And so even if you don't get the grant, what I would recommend for you is that MVP model that I talked about, the minimal viable product. So can you make 100 boxes with what you have or what you can source right now and ship?
Mm-hmm.
And does that sell? How easy is it to sell? What's the cost per acquisition for your customers? And that's going to give you great data and insight on how much money you actually need to keep it going. And when you think about subscription services, that's a money upfront model where people subscribe knowing you're about to send them something. So if you can make sure that whatever you're charging can ensure you never want to sell something without being able to provide it, but
Right.
you can sell it at a price that you can then in turn go to your local markets and then put together something that you promised and ship out.
Mm-hmm.
You could do it on a one-on-one basis. Uh, that buy then ship model. So
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely recommend that. Um, and then also looking very much into the forest farming thing is going to keep growing in our region. Like when we look at the history of how people made money 50 years ago, 75 years ago, they knew how to work the land that they have. And to build generational wealth in Appalachia, we are going to have to take another look and step back into what do we have, what are our resources, and how can we, add value to others with those resources. So maybe it's maple farming. Maybe it's, there's many different ways we could go down. But also creating that ecosystem and that network of the people who are doing it, who might also need help distributing their products. That's going to be another way that your organization can add a lot of value for the community, because if there's not and farmers markets, yes, but beyond farmers markets, how long term, how in the winter are we distributing those products to people? So I would say keep your foot on the pedal of exactly what you're doing, but just know, even if you are seeking grants right now, don't get discouraged if they don't come through, because it doesn't mean that your model isn't going to work. And there's ways to do that without. And it might be also partnering with local, grocery stores, distributing that way. Yeah, there's a lot, and I'd love to keep talking with you about it offline too. But just know that grants are one of those things that it's not always the startup funding. It's sometimes the scale funding. People like to see that validated, where the money's coming from model. And that's going to be what is most successful in most grant writing situations. And if we look beyond grants, there's CDFIs. So like, say you're wanting to open or like start the maple, and you need the tubing to get the sap out of the forest. You could have like a small loan from a CDFI who wants to invest and support that agroforestry, and start small and be able to then turn that product. And the other thing which I love is your training model. Of hiring and that workforce solutions, because I think one of the strategies on my list is hire local. Everything that you can do and keep the money in locally, do it. So whether that's packaging for your subscription box, whether that's wood boxes that you're storing things in, shelving, whatever it is that you're trying to do, odds are if you go to a local manufacturer, they might not be the cheapest as far as, when we think about, global markets and that sort of thing, but they're definitely going to be the most value added. It's going to be what is best for you and your business long term, and often the products are better, if we can be quite frank here, and are going to last longer. It's save shipping, and it also, more than anything, it creates social network. So if you buy your cabinets from the local cabinet maker, how much more likely are they to tell someone about your business when they come in? And how many people do they touch? I mean, we see it so easily. We know word of mouth. That's obviously the most effective way. But in rural America and in underserved and underrepresented communities, word of mouth is essential. It's how we hear about jobs. It's how we hear about food service programs. It's how we hear about open, housing. It's how we hear about childcare. It's how we get rides from our friends and neighbors when our car doesn't work, or when we can't afford to even think about having a car. So that, uh, give back to the people that you're wanting to serve, through hiring and sourcing local as much as possible. Definitely. Let me make sure there's nothing else in the chat or the Q&A real quick before I go on to our next topic. Yeah, so time is a resource that people have. Human energy from community members is often overlooked. 100% agree, Bill. Um, uh, and that's that social part of social enterprise, I feel. That, you know, and let me just keep reading here real quick. We have certified so many forklift operators and CDLs here. That's wonderful. So it's not just ag stuff, but general work skills. Yes, that's absolutely crucial. And, you know, we have an aging skilled labor force. So as many of those types of training programs and opportunities to have apprenticeships or skills building is going to be so, so critical for our long-term success in rural America. Um, you know, always thinking about how can we best advance our people through skills and certifications and credentialing, and more than anything, experience. It's what builds confidence, and it's what builds innovation, and allows them to have, you know, the next big idea or the next solution to the problem. So I think we touched on this, you know, very much. Test small, prove fast. So run a pilot. So like we talked with the subscription boxes, but charge money. We often see like free samples, or you know, like I want to see if this is good or not. You can still charge for it. I'm always going to advocate for that, even if it's a pay what you can model. Sometimes those are more profitable than setting exact prices, because the ones that can give more do, and the ones that can't give but still get to benefit from the service are going to tell a friend. So sometimes it doesn't have to be set pricing. You can get very creative with that when you own the full company. Also, use shared assets. I think one of the things that we need to think strategically about is, you know, we have aging infrastructure. We have a need for rebuilding infrastructure and repairing infrastructure. And we need to use the resources in our community, and we need to have a very communal approach when we think about those things. So I'm thinking very much about schools, churches, libraries. We got to use our local libraries, and a lot of us do, you know. Um, and Main Street buildings. So leasing or co-leasing instead of building from scratch. That is going to be so, so critical. And also just, you know, uh, a good business model. It's going to be word of mouth with people who use those buildings for other things. And then also, you know, in communities like mine, I live in Lawrence County now. I'm from Martin County originally. I'll hit 5 or 6 churches before I hit the first place to swap a card. And so those types of buildings can be used for other things. So imagine, you know, with the food distribution, if the rec centers at 3 local community centers, you know, out in the hollers, had a farm type stand where you could buy the food and buy here, pay here, and you know, or you know, pay what you can type models. Those can be very strategic ways to earn money and have that revenue coming in, and more than you might think. To be honest, like it sounds small, and it's going to take some stalking and still takes that workforce. Um, but the convenience and also the nuance to it can often be very, very profitable and beneficial. And also that low overhead. You know, you don't want to be spending more than you're making. So it doesn't always have to be the fanciest building on the best street with the best lighting and all of the things. It can just be a simple setup. You know, and build those partnerships. The other, you know, strategy that's going to make social enterprise and local solutions successful is partnerships. We can't do anything alone. We never have, and we never will. So think about employee-owned business models. So so maybe you have a local a business person who's retiring, they want to leave their legacy. It doesn't have to be sold to just one person. It could be sold back to the people who've been working that industry and know that profession their whole lives. And that employee-driven model of ownership and decentralizing of power can be really, really sustainable. Co-ops, very, very sustainable when we think about business models. So, you know, uh, we often like to, think of profit or charging as like money as like, you know, not necessarily greedy, but like on that other end of the spectrum. But it doesn't have to be. And what social enterprise often can do, because you're still charging money, you're still having that earned revenue, but it builds that loyalty, that customer loyalty, knowing that their money, if spent here, goes back into their community. Um, with whatever focus that you want to focus on. The real thing is that circulation of income. And corporations can play a big role in this too. So maybe they want to open a social enterprise in a community and let it be locally ran. That can be very beneficial to both the corporation and to the community. So there's a place for everyone. And every type of entity and organization, when we think about local solutions. Like, it's not going to be just one cookie cutter answer. We're going to have to get outside the box and think about partnerships and crossing lines and compromise. Compromise is always going to be a huge factor when we think about solutions that work. So we might not all get every single piece of what we want right away, but we can all move forward together with it. And also, the best solution might be one that's not been thought of yet. So don't be scared to try something new. Don't be scared don't rely solely on existing past research. So like, oh, it's never been done before, or no one's shown me how that can work successfully. Well, if you had the idea, rely on your instincts and then go out and test the model, because you could be the research that someone else uses to help their community. And document what works, document what doesn't work, tell your success story. And we often come from like humble personalities where we don't want to brag on ourselves. We don't want to tell people what we're doing. We don't want to talk about it just to a neighbor. It's sometimes harder to testify to the ones we know more than it is to a stranger. But for social enterprise, for business of all sorts, for local solutions of any kind, we have to be talking about it, because if people don't know about it, they can't support it. They can't give feedback on it. So even if it's not going to be something that everyone wants or agrees with, if they don't know about it, they can't give their input. And we are siloing ourselves and our idea and not giving it the full chance to flourish. Discourse of all kinds is beneficial and healthy in a thriving ecosystem and economy. So be loud, be proud, and be willing to iterate on your idea. Definitely. And track those simple metrics. So it doesn't have to be this huge, overly complicated formula. Have a customer relationship management system, even if that's a notebook and a piece of paper and a pencil. But have that customer relationship management system. I highly recommend keeping it digital, just so you have access to it. No matter where you are, or if you spill your coffee on it, it's still there. But whatever your system might be, make sure that you know how you're serving your customers, you know who your customers are, you know how to get a hold of your customers if you need to, so that point of contact information, and know who's buying from you or who's utilizing your services. That information is absolutely critical for expanding, scaling, changing, whatever it might be. That's the data. Everyone else's data is their data. Your data is what's going to be impactful for making decisions for your business or your solution or your community, whatever that might be. So if you want to run a local festival and it's free, you still want to know who's showing up, how are they getting there, that type of data, and it can be quantitative or qualitative. Both are very, very valuable in decision making. And how many wages are kept local? How many jobs are created adjacently to your business because you exist? And how much time are you saving doing certain things? I recommend, keeping track weekly and then reconciling monthly on that type of data. And then also following up. Follow up with your customers, follow up with your partners, your buyers, your wholesalers, your building owners, your community members, your word of mouth, the supporters, social media, whether we love it, hate it, or anything in between. It's a great way to stay in contact and stay keeping your mission at the front of people's mind. So always follow up, however that may look, and share your successes.
And that, Dana, goes well with a Q&A that we have. I don't know if you saw it, where they're asking about innovative tech solutions that you might have.
Wow, absolutely. So we love innovative tech, especially in social enterprises. Actually, a counterpart of mine at SOAR, when we're thinking about our social enterprise Accelerator, which is a 12-week program to help advance businesses, is AI and technology transfer manager, and she goes out all across the globe, but also here locally, and says, what technologies are people using? How can we bring it back to rural America? How can we utilize it in our social enterprises? How can our partners and our customers utilize it in their daily lives? And so let me see the question specifically. Sorry, I'm on my phone, so I'm not able to see it exactly. But
I can read it for
yeah,
you.
I can.
So it's an anonymous question, and it says, "Love all of these insights. I am wondering if you are seeing any social enterprises in SOAR's ecosystem that are adopting innovative tech solutions to move their social enterprises towards greater financial and operational sustainability. If so, what are some tools that seem to be impactful?"
Yeah, absolutely. So childcare solutions, I would say one of the greatest tools we have is a customer relationship and parent relationship management system that's free for Kentuckians, called Brightwheel. So that is one that, if you're in the childcare space, I would definitely check out. As a more general tool, I would say, and I know it can be a hot topic, but AI tools are definitely there and readily available and able to help you save time and think through ideas faster, and knowing that human input is always going to be uh, what drives impact. So not relying solely on it, but utilizing it as a time saver tool. Because, like we talked about earlier, human capital and human time is our number one resource. And so if we can add technology into that to make it uh, to free up some of our human time, that's going to have a greater impact. So use it how you want to use it, and use it sustainably and thoughtfully. But that is going to be one tool that's and whether it's ChatGPT, Google LM, Copilot, whatever it might be, there are strategies that you can use to grow your time and your ability with those things. But knowing that our customers want to hear from us as humans, so it's not a one-stop shop. It's not going to be something that we can rely on solely. Other tech solutions that are helping us create better margins are those customer relationship management systems that I was talking about. There's some free ones, there's some AI driven ones, and then there's just building your own through a Google Sheet, which can be free. But those types of tools are definitely useful. There's also email systems. So being able to batch large emails and staying in contact with your customers is another one. And then as far as like new technologies and tools, we actually do work with several businesses at SOAR who are doing really innovative things as far as grant writing and matching yourself and your mission and your business to those subsidies and to those tax reforms and to those different policies and opportunities for your business. And it might be that you're hiring second chance employees and what type of incentive programs are there for that. It might be that you're serving a specific housing type of population and what types of incentives are there for that. So there are tools in the works and really innovative companies working on ways to make that quicker, because you can do that type of stuff manually right now. But sometimes you're going to miss things. Sometimes you're not going to know about things, or it might be a deadline situation where you're trying to write all these proposals or making sure you're filing the right documentation and staying compliant with these types of opportunities. So we do have a really great company that is working on that. But yeah, no, there's so many tools. I can talk about tools all day. So would love to, whoever that is, please follow up with me. You can find my email online, find me on LinkedIn. Would love to talk with you about your specific, vision, business, because there's so many tools out there that you want to make sure you're using the one that's right for your company and vetting your company and your idea. So yes, and she dropped my email in the chat. Anyone on here, feel free to email me. I'd love to follow up with each and every one of you. Let's see. We have anything else in the chat? Okay. When it comes to shared assets, are you seeing any social enterprises adopting fractional staffing models? That's a great question. And so with that, there are definitely models that are doing that. I think that that's going to be a industry that is or a model that's we're going to see more of in the future, especially with many people wanting to do different things and having different opportunities come along. So I do think that that's something that we're going to see more of, especially in our region. But ultimately, I don't have any that I'm working with specifically that are using that model, but it is something that a lot of organizations are wanting to utilize. And would love, if you have seen any organizations that are utilizing that, I'd love to see and hear from you on your thoughts on that, Braylon. Yeah. Any other questions? I want to make sure we get to any comments or topics that anyone wants to talk about. All right. Well, I will finish up then with my last strategy that I wanted to share with you all. And this really has to do with driving equity in rural communities. And that is measure your equity impact. So who's being served, who's being hired, who's gaining wealth, track this disaggregated data and make sure that no one is left out in your reporting. And share services for underserved founders. So making sure that if you know of a good training or mentorship program, if you know of any accounting or HR or marketing tools to lower those barriers, that we're sharing those openly with other organizations that could benefit. And don't see others in the same space as you as competitors. See them as partners. That would be my number one recommendation for all of us is we can all serve the same people. We all want to be served in many different ways and take opportunities and be part of our communities and build that culture together. So just because we're all, maybe it's two childcare businesses in the same town, they should be best friends. They should be sharing best practices with one another. They should be supporting and lifting each other up. Maybe it's two housing developers, and our housing developers in Eastern Kentucky actually do a really great job of this. But making sure that they're lifting each other up in the industry and also coming across industry lines. So maybe it's a transportation system in a community that can go to that local food service provider, that can drop off at daycare, that can drop off at work, and also like at a local community center that has music lessons. Don't forget our arts and our culture and our history and the things that make us human when we're thinking about solutions and community building. And so let me see. I have another question here. If anyone has folks doing cottage industry value added products that you would like to be included in Apple Box or Appy Box project, they're still taking people. So yes. And then let's see, I have another question here. Have we connected with any universities? Yes. Our local school systems, our community and technical colleges, 100% are one of the greatest resources in our great state, and then also our very innovative university. So I don't even want to name them because we work with all of them, and I know I'll forget someone. But yes, please utilize your KCTCS system. Please utilize your local libraries. Please utilize and lift up your local school systems. We have entrepreneurs in elementary school, middle school, high school, out of high school, didn't graduate high school, in college, have some college, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, doctoral degrees, and everything in between. People in recovery, out of recovery, people, in the community, people who have moved to the community and adopted rural Appalachia as their home. So we see entrepreneurs from all walks of life with all experiences and backgrounds, and they all provide something so unique and beautiful to the ecosystem. And we also have great entrepreneurial support organizations, also too many for me to name one by one, but if you want more information, I'm happy to share a list with you all after. Please utilize my email. But we have people working on childcare initiatives. We have people working on housing. We have people working on healthcare. We have people doing all of these different things. We have great entrepreneurs growing mushrooms in reclaimed mining sites that have medicinal and economic benefits for the community. We have and all of this is coming from college, university, schooling, research. So when we say partnering with our universities, yes. And they're some of the greatest places to find both social partners and then also business partners and entrepreneurship. And, when you think about the entrepreneurial mindset, don't think you have to start a business to be entrepreneurial. You don't. You can be an entrepreneur in your own life, in your friends and family's lives, in your role, in your job, in your children's lives, in your community. When you find a problem that needs to be solved and you think of a way to solve that problem, that's entrepreneurship. Providing value for others, that's entrepreneurship. Um, and so, uh, if I can leave you with anything, I would say um, think outside of the box, be entrepreneurial, take a risk, try something new. Don't think you have to have all the answers, and don't think you have to start large or with the end goal. The best businesses, the most sustainable long term businesses or solutions come from that first initial step, that small step that you can take today. Any other questions or any other insights we want to talk about as we wrap up here? I've loved hearing from you all. It's been a great, really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you so much, Dana. And again, apologies everyone for the technical issues in the beginning and for your patience. But we got it squared away, and this was a super fantastic webinar and definitely has my brain ticking. And real quick, I did want to say that to remember that there are the after parties happening, and I'm going to drop that link. You can find all the information. There's one in West Virginia, Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky. And yeah, I'll hand it back to anyone else if anyone has last questions.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Yes, thank you so much.
And best of luck. Any solutions, any businesses you are working on, keep going at it, keep after it, and remember who you're serving. Thank you all. And please reach out.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end it. Yep, I dropped her email in the chat. Feel free. And thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, guys.